A revelation has come out indicating that 4 cities in the United States will become ghost towns. Now, when I talk about ghost town, it means that there will be no single person in these various cities. Now, the question is, what can bring about a whole city being empty with no humans, no living thing? This clearly tells that it's either going to be a distraction, a war, conflict, or any other thing. I'm not going to waste much time. I'm going to allow this sister to share her message, and I want you to listen and then seek discernment from God. And if you are living in any of these cities, do not panic. This is not fear mongering. But I believe that God wants us to know what is about to happen so that we'll be able to pray and then rebuke it. We have the power as Christians and believers to pray and stop whatever negativity that is coming our way. Now, before I proceed, I would like to take a few seconds to give you reports on what we have been doing so far in the year 2025 for our missionary projects and evangelism. Now, as you can see on the screen, we've been able to visit most places to share the gospel, to share the word of salvation to our lost brothers and sisters so that they can also receive Jesus Christ as their Lord and personal Savior. This is what the Lord has asked us to do. And afterwards, we've been to various schools to talk to the school kids about the love of Jesus Christ so that they can also find Jesus at their early stage to have a solid relationship with him. Now, during these times too, we visited the orphanage homes to show love, care, and support to them. Now, the Lord has asked us to visit other countries where we can extend our support, our care, and love to them. The next orphanage home which we want to visit is in South Africa. Wherever you are in the world, if you would want to participate in our missionary project, you can pick up my email address and send in your details, and we'll add you to our evangelism team. Now, if you have any physical item that you would want to support us with, you can feel free to pick up my email address and ship them in. It could be Bibles, it could be gospel tract, food items, and clothing. Now, if you would want to also show love to the needy, the orphanage, the widows, and the lost ones by supporting us through finances, you can pick up our donation link in the description section of the video, where you will be able to visit our donation site to donate whatever amount that you want to use to support God's work. And I know God is richly going to bless you. Now, I want to say a very big thank you and God bless you to all those who have supported, who have donated to this ministry to do God's work. We do not use any of your monies for any personal reasons. We make sure that we take it out to reach out to the souls that truly needs our support and care. So whatever that you have donated so far, I know God is richly going to bless you in so many ways. All right, so please pay attention and
we are living in dangerous times, and the devil is also working to destroy the sons and daughters of God across the globe and cities. God showed me 4 cities that will soon become ghost towns, and I see this coming not long from now. It's my honest prayer that those living in these cities will adhere to the warning God gave me. My name is Michael. I was born and raised in El Paso. For those who don't know, it's a city close to the border of Mexico. I have to mention this clearly because it has a lot to do with what I will be saying as I share this experience. I never thought much about the dangers in the world, but sincerely my mindset changed when I had a vision that left me shaken. This vision happened early this month. I had gone to bed, but something strange happened. As I slept, I found myself in a different place, almost like I was watching a movie, but I was inside it. I saw cities near the border: El Paso, Laredo, San Diego, and Calexico. In this vision, each of these places was visible to my eyes. How it was possible to see all at the same time is what I can't explain. I saw these places were full of life, with people walking the streets, going to work, and living their daily lives. But suddenly, I saw that everything changed. I saw a group of masked men crossing the border. They carried weapons, attacking people without warning. There was screaming. I heard gunfire, and there was chaos everywhere. The streets were filled with fear. These armed men did not enter tanks or planes. I saw some dressed as workers, and others as travelers. It was obvious they had been planning this for a long time, and they knew how to avoid detection. Some entered through official checkpoints using fake identities. Others sneaked in through weak points in the border where security was light. Then, without warning, I saw how these armed men began attacking the cities they happened to strategically invade. It started in one city, then spread to the others like wildfire. The armed men were targeting crowded areas first. Shopping malls, restaurants, and main streets were hit. Explosions rocked buildings. People screamed and ran, but there was nowhere to hide. The police tried to respond, but the attackers were already inside. Too many, too fast. I saw the armed men moving in the darkness, crossing the border quietly. They came in groups, dressed in black, their faces covered. Some carried guns, others had knives. No one knew they were coming. Everywhere I looked, there was fear. Moved through the city, taking control of everything. It was not just one house, not just one family. This was happening all over. Some were kidnapped, taken away in trucks. The attacks did not stop after the first night. At some point, when people thought the worst was over, it would happen again. The armed men kept coming. There were so many of them, striking different parts of the city. They never hit the same place twice in a row. I saw that. This made it impossible for people to predict where they would attack next. They moved from street to street, breaking into homes, dragging people away, and setting fire to whatever they couldn't take. The sound of gunfire and explosions became normal. No one could sleep. No one felt safe. The police and military tried to fight back, but it seemed like the attackers always knew when and where they were coming. It was as if someone was telling them the plans ahead of time. I saw the security officers setting up traps and roadblocks only for the attackers to avoid them completely. When the police finally reached an area under attack, the damage was already done. The attackers had vanished into the night, leaving behind bodies, burning buildings, and people too scared to speak. After a few days, something became clear. These cities were no longer safe. The government wasted no time in sending police officers and soldiers to stop the attacks. I saw soldiers set up checkpoints, blocking off roads, and searching cars for any sign of the armed men. Helicopters hovered above, scanning the city with bright spotlights. At first, people felt hopeful. They thought that, with the police and military involved, things would finally get better. But the attacks continued. No matter how many officers were sent, these evil attackers always seemed to be one step ahead. The police would rush to a neighborhood, only to find it already destroyed. By the time the soldiers arrived at one location, the attackers had already moved to another. It was like they knew exactly when and where the authorities were going to strike. The government tried setting up ambushes. They placed undercover officers in different areas, waiting for the armed men to show up. But everything was in vain. The attackers avoided those spots. It was as if someone had warned them. The police would wait for hours in silence, only to realize that nothing was happening. Then, just miles away, another part of the city would be under attack. I saw how, while the cities burned and people fled for their lives, the government was locked in endless debates. Inside high offices, I saw leaders sitting around long tables, arguing over what should be done. Some slammed their fists on the table, demanding immediate action. Others leaned back in their chairs, shaking their heads, saying they needed more information before making a decision. One group insisted that the borders needed to be completely locked down. They argued that if the armed men were getting in so easily, then security at the border was too weak. More guards, more fences, more checkpoints, whatever it took to stop them. But another group pushed back, saying that closing the borders wouldn't solve the problem. They believed that the attackers were already inside, hiding among the people, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Some officials called for stronger military action, demanding that every street be patrolled, every suspicious person investigated. Others warned that this would only cause more panic. Innocent people could be hurt in the process. No one could agree on the right approach. And while they debated, the situation worsened. When the government finally agreed to send in more troops and tighten security at the border, it was already too late. The damage had been done. I saw that the cities had become empty. Businesses were abandoned, and the people who had left had no plans of coming back. The attackers had already won, not just by taking lives, but by taking away the sense of safety that once existed. By the time the leaders came up with a real strategy, there was almost nothing left to protect. As I stood in the middle of the empty streets, it was then that I heard a voice, strong and clear. It came from nowhere. And it was not a loud voice, but it carried weight, a force that I could not ignore. It spoke directly to me, saying, "Tell them to secure their borders." The words and warning were meant for the leaders, the people, and the entire nation. The borders were open, unguarded, and weak. This was how the enemy had come in so easily. If nothing was done, worse things would follow. Then the voice spoke again, saying this to me, and I quote, "Warn the people to pray. The enemy has already come through once, and they will come again if nothing is done." The cities have been left in ruins, families torn apart, and the people driven from their homes. The voice also made an emphasis on prayer, especially to those in these cities I mentioned. There is a need they pray like never before. This is not just a battle of weapons and soldiers. It is greater. No wall, no army, no strategy will stop what is coming. Only God can provide the protection and wisdom needed to overcome this storm. If the people turn to Him, He will guide them. But if they ignore this warning, darkness will spread, and what was once home may never be safe again. The time to act is now. Secure the borders. Seek God in prayer before it is too late.
This
Thank
message.
you, sir.
God bless you and thank you very much. I believe you heard everything that was stated in this revelation. Now, I believe you also heard the 4 cities that were mentioned in the United States. Now, all I can say is that we need to pray. This is the best suggestion I can give. In times like this, we do not know when it is going to happen. If you clearly listen to the revelation, you notice that the government, the security system, human beings, no one was able to put a stop to the attack. So it is actually only God that can save people from this attack that is coming. This is why we need to put our hope in the Lord. This is why we need to focus on the Lord and not to rely on human beings, not to rely on the government. So if you are living in any of these 4 cities, continue to pray. Let us share this message out to our brothers and sisters out there, so that they can also know and receive the message that the Lord has brought to us. God bless you and thank you very much.